Hello cosplay community and YouTube. I got a nice video for you today. This should be pretty much a one-day build, weather depending. Um, but Juggernaut's Helmet, just like the title says, how to make Juggernaut's Helmet. Most people that do helmets, they normally do like a standard one that fits your head, but a big old oversized dome helmet, not so much. So I have some tips that might help you if you were to cosplay the Juggernaut. And I hope you enjoy. Alright, for the supplies. To make your pattern, you're going to need one of these big, little rubber balls. Well, they're not little. Just make sure that it's a smooth surface one. You're going to need some quick seal, some cheap brushes, two types of rulers, one straight, one flexible tape ruler, cutting device, Sharpie, masking tape, poster board or paper that's large. Going to need anti-fatigue mat, fitness mat. You'll be using the soft, smooth side, obviously. Some plastic dip, you can get red. I just got some orange because I didn't have any colors on hand, but get rid of some paint. To glue, going to need some contact cement. I use the Wellwood DAP now instead of hot glue gun glue. You're going to need a pencil as well and a heat gun. There's a faint seam line, and just so I can get it pretty quick, I got my Sharpie out and just marked on it, just round, so I can get to it really fast. I'm going to put tin foil all over and tape it down, and that'll actually give me the shape of the ball. And I just kind of press it down. It doesn't matter if it's crinkly or whatnot. Yeah, the Scotch tape doesn't really want to stick. Well, I keep on calling it masking tape. It doesn't want to stick, so you're going to have to keep on fiddling with it. So I just did like two big sheets across, taped them down the best I can, and taped them together, and then just kind of crinkled the top. I'm going to get the top piece and then coat the entire thing in masking tape. The entire thing, every single piece of foil is going to be coated. What I did was tape down the I guess the equator of this, and then across. Yeah, I'm just going to follow across now that I got the sides on. Okay, all taped up. Now I'm going to just measure across with my fabric tape, and it'll probably I'm going to just get kind of like a center point measured out. And as you can see, it's exactly 57.5 inches. And I'm just going to take my Sharpie and mark that, and mark on the midway point on the other side. And I'm going to try to connect those two lines. Now the fastest way to find the distance between the 2 points, go to 57 inches, put my end piece there. I'm going to press down all the way, and that will give me the midway point. And it gave me 28 3/4 of an inch. Now that I have the halfway point, I gotta find the quarter point. So I'll find a spot midway between. Same process. So as you can see, that was 14.5 inches. I'll copy that to the other side as well. So I have markings on all quarters measurements, and I'm just going to go from here and find his belly on the other side and make a line all the way across. And now mark the 1/2 line, and then once I do it on the other side, I'll make an X at the very top where it's dead center. And I got my 4 sections marked out. I have my 4 sections marked, and I'm about ready to make a pattern and cut this out, so I'm going to need this nice and flat. Might need extra cuts on it too, and that's the most important thing when you're transferring it over. Well, cutting it off, I accidentally burst my bubble. But before I did, I always did these like lineup marks, these little hashtag marks, and the side that they match to, I did one side A1 and A2, other side B1 and B2, and I would make little markings. Okay, A2 with B1 and A1 with B2. That way I would know which sides lined up even if I got them all separated, and I know where they can line up again. Alright, so now we gotta get these flat, and that's a big deal. We might have to cut into them some more, and that's up to you where you cut them. You might just do like a little Pac-Man thing and just once on one side, and that's all you need. Might have to do two. We're going to try it out. Figure this out together, guys. I just realized I only need 1/2 to make the pattern and just flip it over. So I just taped A1 and 2. I lined those little hashtags I made back together, right? And that's my main line. And I just cut out a straight line. That's all it is. It's just a straight line here. And I am going to trace that with a pencil, and that'll be my template that I'll trace onto foam. So that's my template for 1/2. And I went ahead and put the hashtag marks where I originally had them, just in case when I traced it, you know, I can easily put it back if there was something a little bit off. But yeah, that's pretty good. I'm going to cut this out, trace it onto foam, and we'll see how well that tacks together. So that's your true pattern. If you want to make sure everything's hunky-dory, you can just fold it in half. Everything should line up, I think. I don't know. I did put the cut line a little bit different, so it probably won't be too 100%. But the corners and the overall shape needs to be just right. Alright, so if you have vector program like Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, I don't know what's the popular one these days, but you could probably, you know, make a nicer pattern that you could print out, put on a projector, and then trace it out all over again. That's a hassle. I'm kind of just spitballing it, and got this giant roll of foam. These are about $20 to $30 in most athletic sections when you can find them. They're really nice. I can almost make a whole suit of armor out of one of these, and we're going to use the nice smooth side. I'm going to trace that on, see how it works. As I'm making the second half, how I make sure these hashtags from this side to this side line up, look on the side that I already marked, and just slightly just hover over it and just make those marks on the other side, and then I'll trace them down here, and then I'll just carry them through. Okay, that's what I did over here. I just traced them over here, put it down, and then marked them, and then drew the line to complete it. And I'll do that all over. Every single line that you saw over here will actually be mimicked over here, especially on the outer edges, because that's where they will actually fit together. Okay, now that I have everything mapped out the way I like it, I'm going to take a razor blade. Make sure you do not bevel. Keep it 100% straight as you cut. One smooth motion. So you might want to sharpen your blade with just some sandpaper or a knife sharpener or something like that, just to make sure it's nice and fresh. I'm going to do that, and we'll cut. Time to cut out the other one. So I made these nice hashtag marks, little crop marks, or whatever you want to call them. And I just lined them up, pressed my piece together, and kind of lined it up tip to tip. Make sure I had everything where I wanted. There is a little bit of overhang. That's because I had uneven ends when I made my tape ball. I didn't do that 100% correct, but I pressed them in and made like a top piece right there, and that's where I'll start when I glue these together. I'll get those two ends together, and I'll just press them together once I'm going downwards. Now this contact cement, it's pretty toxic. If you're going to work inside, you want to work in a garage, well ventilated area, wear a mask, whatever. And I'm working outside, so it's no problem. It's a nice clear day. It's a little windy, but we're all right. And the way this stuff works, get a little throwaway brush here. Anyways, you just get a little dab and you brush it on. You wait about 5 minutes, let it kind of evaporate. You do it on both sides that you want glued together, and then you press them together. All right. So this stuff, yeah, I already kind of mixed it up a minute ago. Just want to get a little dab, not much, and just get on your nice edge there, and then go on this edge here. Like I said, let it dry and then put them together, and it's a good solid bond. It's better than hot glue. Hot glue will undo in the sun, so in heat, so you might be in a nice warm environment and your suit falls apart. It won't with this. So this is nice and tacky now to the touch. That's pretty much how you want it. Not wet, not dry, but just a little bit sticky, almost like the consistency of duct tape. And you just put those little markings together, press and hold, right? And there it is. I'm just going to push these together as I go down. So I got one half pushed together, and I actually got that end piece to meet up. So it's just kind of doing this one hand for just a moment here. It's not the way I want to do it, but ain't uneven lines, right? You can just hit with that quick seal, which we'll get into here in a minute. All right, going to keep on following that. And that's why it's important to have those little crop lines. It helps you match everything up from end to end. And I'll flip this inside out. I gotta glue up these little sides too, so I'm going to do that, and we're going to just pop it up the other side, and then we'll cut out some holes for the eyes. All right, I got a few like little goopy layers, and that's not a problem. You take a little scrap, right, and you just kind of brush that away, right? Just kind of make sure that's nice and flat, because you don't want that in your finished piece, that little bump. And you can sand it down too, but you know, like this little goopy piece right there, you know, just voila, just take a little scrap, you know, take that away, and you can sand it down once you're done. All right, little tip. Okay, I got a dome. It's inside out. So I'm just going to pop this around once it sets up a bit, enough fooling around. And actually, this would probably be a good time to get out your heat gun too. So once you pop it, you can kind of help that edge look a little bit smoother, kind of round it out a little bit better. Okay, I popped it all out. These seams, yeah, they're still in the tacky stage, so if that happens, you can easily press them back together. It's no big deal. Okay, so kind of let it set up these seams before you do anything else though, and then we'll hit with the heat gun. Hitting it with the heat gun. You just kind of want to roll that around, just like so. You want to get it like an inch away. You don't want to get it to the point where it's black, because this will burn your foam if you're not careful. But you just kind of want to get it nice, soft, and pliable. Like so. Kind of get it over here on top. And you notice it'll start getting shiny. That's the effect you want. It goes from kind of like a velvet look to a shiny look. That's where the cells are starting to close. Alright. That is pliable now. So, just rub my hand on the inside a little bit. This is normally like a two-hand job from each side. Just kind of like press it. And that helps smooth out some of those edges. It's very pliable, this foam, and just have to keep on working with it. I found a weight kind of pressed around these edges, constantly rotating around. Kind of helps me round out those edges a lot nicer. Side with the weight, side where I didn't hit with the weight. Remember, there's heat involved too. So nice and smooth, edged, all edgy. You want it nice and smooth. So just keep on doing that. And yeah, the small weights, you know, really does help. Or, you know, if you have a bowling ball, I don't know, something, you know, you can press it with your hands. It's just going to take longer. That's all. Okay, going to keep on at it. Okay, got a pretty decent dome. Little edges I don't like, but you know, I'm still, you know, it's first attempt. It might help. So, most of the time when you see Juggernaut nowadays, he has like a little bit of a collar around his dome, and I'm going to do that. And first thing I'm going to do is get out the foam and trace this around. We have a new radius, which is a little less than 10 inches. It's 9.5. Yep, 9.5 inches. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a thumbtack right dead center in the middle with a string, and I'm going to use my Sharpie to kind of make a little compass, and that'll give me a nice little brim to start off with. And I'll trace about 2 inches wide, right? And then I'll measure the circumference of that piece, and then I'll know how wide to make the little collar for the shoulder pads and whatnot. Shoulder collar. A little makeshift compass, just held it up with a string and put a tack in the middle. Boom. And I'll do the same thing, just give it a little bit of a gap. No more than like an inch or two. You don't want a really thick collar. Okay, I got my rim out, and I measured it, the circumference of it, and that's 73 inches. So I just need like a piece that'll go around that and connect to whatever body build you that you do. I normally do really massive muscles, front and back, and they'll yeah, I think that'll work. I forgot to say that on the inside you want a nice and straight cut, but on the outside you want a bevel. That means you cut at an angle just slightly like so, and you want to do the same thing on your strip, so when they meet together they'll stand straight up once you glue them together and have a nice hard edge. So I'm going to glue this little inner piece to this edge, then glue this to this edge. I think we can pick a place to put the face on. Okay, so it's starting to rain, so I gotta wrap this up pretty fast. A one-day build's gonna be a two-day build. So I got these two beveled edges, pinch them together, and makes a nice edge. You get the idea. I'm going to follow that all the way around. Yep. Well, that's what we got so far. I'm going to take a break today because it's starting to rain and my one-day build is going to be postponed. Yay. What can you do? Well, the rain stopped for a little bit. I got some of these rough little bumpy edges, and before I put the quick seal in, to smooth those out, I want to sand them down, you know, just to give it a little bit of a nicer finish. So just going to hit with some like 100 grit, 100 or 80 will do. You want something that will really grasp on and scrape off things, and then you work your way to higher level grades. As I was saying, you can, to get a really fine finish around the edges, you can keep on going higher grade. You want like a 200, which is a really fine grain, and you can wet that sandpaper down and just go even higher, even probably up to a 300 if you need to, and that will smooth out all those edges almost to the point where they're invisible. I already had cut out my mouthpiece. I measured a pentagon to the width of my face, and I lined the tip to the midpoint. I cut out a little bit of an eyepiece, and it's going to be a rectangle eyepiece for his eyes, and the top part is a perfect V to the tip, and it's copied to the other side. Well, it just made a little marking there. I'll trace this out, and I'll have two nice rectangle eyepieces to look out of, and just gotta get those cut out. Okay, so the basic shape is done. Unstoppable. Yeah, this is pretty huge. Now, you can kind of see it's almost as wide as my shoulder. It's actually a little bit larger than my shoulder width. But if you're wearing a big old muscle suit, this will actually be the right, correct thing you need. Now, if you want something smaller, go with a smaller ball for your template. But this is the actual Marvel look. This is how wide and how ridiculously big it should be. Now, so, going to press on. Okay, have some good weather, and I have some like little blemishes right here, and how I would like to fix these: quick seal. Just a little putty there. You might want to wear some gloves. You might want to have a putty knife. I may want to have just a cheap plastic spoon and a piece of sandpaper and just sand it away all the teeth off of it. I'll just spackle that on and then scrape it off. And then once it dries, I'm going to sand it. And just like so. Just like a spackling putty knife. And that just gives me a smoother surface. And it's paintable. It's easy to apply. Comes in a nice little squeezy thing. After I sealed up everything the way I want it, I gotta wait about 2 hours for the quick seal to dry, solidify, whatever, cure is the best terminology. And then I can sand it down, and then I can paint it. I'm going to lose light before that happens, but kind of have to bear with me in the painting process. And sand them down all the little seams, and now I'm hitting it with some plastic dip as a rubber coating. I'm going with the black first. And as you can see, as I hit those seams, they're almost invisible. There's a few of them that just a little stubborn, but this gives a nice little rubber coating. And I'm going with the black first, mainly because Juggernaut has like a dark red, bronzy type of helmet. It's like weird. Sometimes it's bronze, sometimes it's red. You can go with silver depending on which incantation of Juggernaut you're going with. But I'm going to finish that, and then once that dries in 20 minutes, I will hit with some red. And you can barely see it in this light, but I'm just slightly misting the red on, and it has a nice little bronzy look. So I don't think I need any other colors unless I want a metallic finish. And alright, now it's coming in. That's the color right there. This And it will dry kind of like a flat finish, so you might want to hit it with some gloss when you're done if you want a nice glossy helmet. You can also get plastic dip metallic flake and then gloss it. It's up to you. It just depends on what you want to have. Just be consistent. Make sure you have nice even coats. And the paint's all dry. It has a nice bronzy red finish, like a dull red. And some of the seams are still a little visible, but for the most part, they disappeared after I put the seal on and sand it down. So I'm pretty happy with it. So it's pretty much done. Now, I would suggest when you make a muscle suit, make it the same exact width of your helm, front and back, so it can line up properly, and probably sew some straps in that can buckle in underneath this ridge here. But the whole point of this video was just to show you the dome, just the dome. All the other details, I'll leave it up to you. So I hope this helps you, and happy cosplay. Take care. God bless.